Gators, and sports fans. Get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got a good show lined up for you today. Talk a little bit of sports. We're going to be joined shortly by Kevin Brockway, who used to work for the Gainesville Sun, now up in Big Ten country, covering mostly the state of Indiana. And then the second portion of the show, we're going to be joined by our good friend, former coach for the Florida Gators, now out at Colorado State, Brian White will join the program. I don't know if you missed it last night, but the NBA playoffs kicked off on Monday and already have some upsets. The Portland Trail Blazers, who had to battle their way into the tournament, so to speak, in the bubble there, led by Damian Lillard, upset the Lakers last night. And in the second, I think before that game, the Orlando Magic upset the 1 seed, the Milwaukee Bucks. So it's pretty good basketball, folks. I know it's very odd, but I've watched bits and pieces of it, and it's been fun to watch. Also, the NHL playoffs are in full swing as well. Gator Football had day 2 yesterday. Not a whole lot of news coming out of there. But that's about it. We're just waiting on Kevin Brockway. I believe Kevin's on the phone. Kevin, are you there? Mr. Producer, do we have Kevin on the line?
Okay, no, yeah, I am on the line now. Yeah, I had to unmute. Can you hear me now?
We got you, my man. Kevin, welcome to the program. First of all, let everybody know, Gator Nation, obviously they remember you covering Billy Donovan's, all his championship teams, but you're now up in Big Ten country, and you pretty much cover the entire state of Indiana, right?
Yeah, I'm at a group of papers, CNHI Indiana. It's 11 newspapers within the state: Anderson, Kokomo, Terre Haute, Jeffersonville, a lot of small and mid-sized papers, kind of a group of newspapers. I'm covering primarily Indiana, but also doing a little bit of Purdue, doing some Indiana Pacers, and I've been up here for about 14 months. I was really enjoying it before the pandemic unfortunately hit, and right now we're going into a lot of months of cancellations, obviously, with the big news coming down last week, Shane, as you know, with regards to the cancellation. Hey, Shane, one more thing before we continue this interview. I just want to pass along my condolences with regards to Aubrey Hill. I know he was a good friend of yours, and is, we're all contemporaries in our late 40s. To see something, him succumb to cancer, that's really a tragic thing.
Yeah, it really was. He's a good guy, as good a guy as you'll ever find. Appreciate the thoughts, Kevin. Let's talk about what's going on up there in the Big Ten. You're right in the middle of it. What is the feeling among just the people? As you said, you cover mostly the Hoosiers and a little bit of the Boilermakers, but what's the feeling among the players there, the fan base? What's going on?
Yeah, it's pretty much been chaos the last week, Shane. I think there are a lot of questions right now that have been unanswered, a lot of frustration with regards to that lack of transparency. Kevin Warren did one interview on the Big Ten Network last week when it was announced, and when he was pressed by Dave Revson, he really didn't offer many concrete answers. And I think that's why right now you've seen these different parental groups from Iowa, from Nebraska, just wanting to know what medical information they used. Was there an actual vote among presidents? That's come up lately. Sandy Barber, the Penn State AD, has brought that up, wondering if there was really an official vote. And then there was the president of Minnesota that said, well, maybe we didn't necessarily vote formally, but we came to a consensus. So there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of unanswered questions. And actually, apparently a group of Big Ten parents organizing and going to the headquarters in Chicago on Friday to kind of speak their mind and try to get answers from Commissioner Warren.
Yeah, that's just bizarre. I did see where a couple of the athletic directors, as you mentioned, they came out and said, we're not sure if nobody voted any or not. But I think you and I text about this, and I've been harping on this ever since the Big Ten canceled football. And I think finally someone, I don't know if it's Clay Travis, a national media member, finally brought it up as well. Kevin Warren, as you mentioned, is the Big Ten commissioner. And he comes out and says, it's not, our doctors tell us it's not safe to play, blah, 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 blah. We've all seen all that. But Kevin, I can't understand how he can sit up there and say this and then have your own son, who is playing in the Southeastern Conference at Mississippi State, still continually practicing and plans to play for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. If his doctors said something to them that how dangerous it was, wouldn't you be up there saying, I'm going to make sure my son is not playing football?
You would think. I mean, that's a personal responsibility. That's obviously a family choice, a personal choice with regards to that. He's been pretty consistent, Shane, since he took over in January, that he was going to put the health and welfare of the athletes first. It's always been his stance. So I think he feels maybe a little bit of a pressure to live up to that stance from the conference standpoint, making sure that those words don't ring hollow, maybe looking at the flip side of this. But there's I've seen that brought up, and it's a fair point. What in terms of what you're doing with the safety, I think what happened that first weekend, it was very odd because Indiana was in the middle of practicing with pads that Saturday. It was the third day of camp, and the MAC made its decision, and then all of a sudden practices and pads were completely shut off, and that's when you knew there was something brewing here. And then an ESPN report came out with the 5 cases in the Big Ten of myocarditis. Rutgers also is still a mess. They have about 30 or 40 cases. So I just don't know why they didn't delay it. They had the wiggle room. Their insistence to start the first week of September was really odd to me. The only rational explanation for it, I think, was maybe they wanted to get finished before flu season. They wanted to get done by Thanksgiving. But I think they had some wiggle room in the schedule where they could have delayed it in the fall, and I think maybe made it work out.
Do you think this so-called myocarditis is the reason that they went and postponed the season? Because I've spoken to friends of mine that are cardiologists, different types of doctors, and this is something that's been going on for years. I mean, it's nothing new. And I know at the University of Florida, they always, you have multiple EKGs, all kinds of heart tests when you come in as a freshman. They do it every year. Is this just something that the Big Ten has never really looked into or done during their physicals for their athletes?
No, I think they do it, and I think myocarditis, if you look at the Pac-12 document sheet, it's really prominently mentioned. When Kevin Warren was asked about it, he said it was a factor, but it wasn't the only factor. So I think it played into it, and I think they were alarmed, when they found out that first weekend about it and about the number of cases. And then, of course, from our end, I remember I was on vacation in Colorado. It was like my last day. And then all of a sudden a Facebook post comes up from a parent of an Indiana player, Brady Feeney, talking about his visit. His mom mentioned that he went to the ER and that he may have some heart issues. So I think overall the unknowns about the long-term effects might have factored into the decision as well. Maybe not just myocarditis, but other things. And just the concern about all the medical risks that right now, we're dealing with a disease that's, I know a lot of people like to talk about planning, but I think this disease is kind of virus is kind of changing and evolving. So sometimes it's hard to come up with plans when different things come up that you don't really know about.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. August is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Kevin Brockway on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. You can follow Kevin on Twitter at Kevin Brockway G1. So Jeff Brom, the head football coach at Purdue, came out with this proposal to try to do, I think it was an 8-game season in the spring. Is there any chance of them playing in the spring?
I think there is. I think they're going to try. They're going to do their best. Otherwise, why have the some workouts scheduled in the fall on campus? And I think it would be really hard to keep players motivated if you don't have that carrot out there. It would be tricky in the Midwest. I think that you have to look into maybe dome sites or something, in some because of the weather. If you start in if you start in early January. I know Jeff Brom's proposal is a little later down the road, but I don't think, if you're Ryan Day at Ohio State, you're trying to sell Justin Fields to stay. I think you got to start the season earlier than that and end the season earlier than that because of the NFL draft. And it's just going to be really hard to get. And I felt like that way from the beginning, when I've discussed things with different writers across the country. I said, the one drawback of the spring schedule is a draft, because you're not just talking about a draft date being in April. You're talking about the combine. You're talking about, you've been through it, Shane, just preparing for the draft and, the amount of time that goes into that. You want that 4-month window.
Well, I didn't do a whole lot of preparation for the draft, unfortunately, or I probably would have gotten drafted. I don't want to. I'd love to go back to those days and do that differently, there, Kevin. But so talking to some, I don't know how many players you've been in contact with, or parents, or what have you. But I guess my question is, with the parents and the players being so upset, has there been any guys from the Big Ten enter the transfer portal or have plans to enter the transfer portal? Now, they can't, even if you were to, let's just say, transfer and want to go to an SEC or ACC school, they're not going to have room for you because they've already started training camps. They got their 85 scholarships. But has there been much talk about guys leaving the Big Ten?
There have been some rumblings about Fields, but other than that, I haven't heard too much. What you've seen is the players declaring for the NFL draft. There was a big right tackle from Michigan this week. His name escapes me. He's gone. And then you had that factor even before of people skipping the fall. Rondale Moore, Rashad Bateman, Micah Parsons. You had a lot of that. You had a lot of people that were going to bypass the fall season altogether. But I have not heard about that. And I think the timing is really tricky, Shane, because we're coming up on the start of the fall semester. How do you transfer the credits over? That situation? How do you get everything situated where you can move from school to school? Are you going to get the eligibility, or are you going to have to sit out? I think that's another factor too. And I know the NCAA is trying to incentivize staying in terms of giving players extra years of eligibility if the team plays less than 50% of games this season, either in the fall or the spring. So there are ways they're trying to keep the kids at their schools, but it could evolve into that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's no answers forthcoming in the week that you might see. Kirk Ferentz in his Zoom call, he was, basically saying, I'd wish that schools would be honorable in, not rating our rosters, but maybe that's a little bit naive on my part.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Kevin, let me ask you this. You live there in the state of Indiana. For the people that are living in the state of Ohio, they're going to be watching the Cincinnati Bengals play. They're going to watch the Cleveland Browns play. They're going to be watching the Cincinnati Bearcats play football. And they're going to be watching their local high school teams play football, but no Ohio State Buckeyes. Good gracious. I don't know. What are they doing in the state of Indiana when it comes to regards of high school sports?
Yeah, they're going forward right now. What happened was actually a couple of months ago, what was really interesting was the state was going forward with fall sports, and then Indianapolis, Marion County, decided against it. And then I think there was such a public outcry that Marion County reversed course, and now they're going ahead with CDC guidelines. And, you bring up the state of Indiana. This was, really a highly anticipated year for Indiana Hoosiers football. I mean, they had kind of a renaissance last year. They were 8-5, their best season since 1993. Tom Allen has done a terrific job recruiting, and particularly in the Southeast, getting a lot of kids from Florida and Georgia and Mississippi that are really talented. And there was a lot of high expectations for the Hoosiers here too. There are a lot of Indiana fans that are disappointed. It's not the same fan base, obviously, as Florida, Ohio State, or Michigan, but they were looking forward to the season as well.
The deal is up, and it is very good. It's the Campus USA and Davis Chevrolet biggest sale of the year. They will put you in a new car between August 20th and August 23rd. Lowest interest rates of the year, a free $100 gift card, and no payments for 90 days. Valid all week at Davis Chevrolet. We're speaking with Kevin Brockway. A few more minutes with him on the Titan MR hotline. So, Kevin, you're up there in Hoosier land. Now, there's been talk. I've heard college basketball season is huge there. What's the word of the Big Ten about college basketball? I've kind of heard the SEC may be looking at some form of a bubble. Is that the same type of talk up there in the Indiana area?
Yeah, same thing. Bubbles are definitely have been brought up, I think, throughout the country. And I think it makes sense when you look at the NBA success, when you look at what they've done. And, some people talk about, what about staying on campus, campus life, et cetera. We're already seeing what's going on in North Carolina and Notre Dame. Campus might not be the safest place to be. So you can do online learning, you can do remote learning. We know that the technology has evolved. It's not ideal, but you're still a student if you're learning online. So I think that would definitely be, one of the ways to go. I mean, there's been talk also about, maybe Assembly Hall, maybe during Thanksgiving break when the students are gone, winter break between Thanksgiving, and the students aren't scheduled to come back here until I think like the last week of January, the first week of February, maybe doing something then and bringing a pot of teams here to Assembly Hall to do like a non-conference kind of bubble situation. And the hotel space here isn't great, but I think it's good enough where you can maybe accommodate 3 or 4 teams. So that's been brought on the table too, kind of like campus bubble sites during winter break. And certainly Indianapolis has several gyms up there. You have Hinkle Fieldhouse. You have, you could use Lucas Oil as a gym when the Colts season is over. You've got Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and you've got a lot of these, field houses all across the region, in the suburbs too, that you could use as well.
What do you think about what the NBA has done? I know you follow the Pacers, you cover the Pacers. Obviously, the playoffs started. They lose. Oladipo goes out. I think it was. I lose my track of days. I think it was last night or maybe the day before. What are your thoughts about what the NBA has done?
Yeah, impressive. I think what they've done, and I think that's the way to go. I think the controlled environment. I mean, you take a look at the example of Major League Baseball, which wanted to go to a bubble, but the players' union balked. I mean, I think people like to pile on Rob Manfred from that, but I think Manfred would have preferred a bubble situation. But in the NBA, I think it's gone along, fairly swimmingly. And a few people tried to leave the bubble, right, and they got kind of publicized and shamed about it. Dwight Howard, right, Lou Williams with the chicken wings or whatever, and
right.
all this stuff came up. So it's worked out well. They haven't, really had many outbreaks or incidents or positive tests. So I've been pretty impressed with it. And, I think the product has been good. I think the, playoffs are a little odd when you don't have a home crowd. It's a little strange, but I think the basketball has been pretty competitive, and the Pacers yesterday, Oladipo got scratched in the eye, and I think they're worried about a possible scratched cornea. They had to take him to the hospital yesterday. So that could be another blow to them, and they're already without Sabonis.
Yeah. We got a text here for you, Kevin, on the Titan MR text line. Larry wants to know, rumors have it that the XFL will sign tons of players that are not playing college football. Have you heard that?
Heard some rumblings, I think that, leave it to the Rock, right? He just bought it. It would make sense to give, kids a place to play in the fall. So it's possible, but I would wonder like how quickly you could turn around, you probably, could you get people to stadiums by October? And, but if you have the TV contracts too, it could work.
Yeah, I just think there's an opportunity. I have so much respect for, I don't even know Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. I think they're both very good players. But for those guys, they don't need to play any more college football. They're going to be first round picks, but they want to have that experience of playing with their teammates and have that experience of college football, and it's being taken away from them. And I just hate that opportunity that they're missing out. But their teammates are the ones that are missing out as well, because, it could be a backup receiver or slot receiver for Ohio State that if they played this year and he catches 50, 60 balls, he goes from an undrafted kid to maybe the third or fourth round. You just never know the opportunities that are being taken away from these kids. And that's what bothers me the most about what the Big Ten decided to do.
Yeah, no question. I think that opportunity, like you mentioned, that standpoint, you definitely have to look at it. I think you weigh that with the health considerations. I mean, it's a tough call. And obviously, Kevin Warren right now is certainly feeling the heat. And it's like I said, it's going to be an interesting week. Could they save it? Could they make him change his mind? With this parental pressure. I don't know, but I'd be highly doubtful. I think we're looking at trying a spring season, and like you said, if that's the case, I think you're talking about a lot of players that could be leaving or going to the draft early, and even then the product wouldn't be as great.
Let me get your thoughts before we let you go, Kevin, on the SEC playing a 10-game conference schedule. When the schedule came out, what were your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts were, certainly, I think for Florida, to start at Ole Miss and their schedule, it's kind of odd. No Florida State, right? And then you've got Tennessee on Thanksgiving weekend, or Kentucky, on Thanksgiving weekend. I like it. I like the fact that it's going to be a meat grinder for all the teams. You feel sorry maybe for the Ole Miss and the Mississippi States of the world. Not having those non-conference games that kind of help pad your schedule. But listen, with that kind of grind brings opportunity. I think Indiana was excited about the Big Ten only schedule. I know that as well, in terms of, hey, let's measure ourselves up against the best every week and let's try to meet that challenge. So maybe there'll be an SEC school that you don't expect to surprise. So and obviously COVID is in the background too, in terms of depth charts also. How if you lose a kid to an infection, how do you deal? I know Tom Allen was talking about having to have a 3-deep depth chart and a depth chart for coaches too. So
wow.
Those are some of the things the SEC is going to have to deal with in terms of if players or members of the coaching staff get positive tests.
No doubt. Well, Kevin, let everybody know where they can check out all your work up there in Indiana.
Yeah, well, my Twitter account is Kevin Brockway G1, and if you go on the Anderson Herald Bulletin website or Kokomo Tribune website, Jeffersonville, 11 different papers on CNHI.
Kevin, appreciate it. We'll get you back here soon. Maybe the Big Ten will change their mind. We shall see. If not, we'll get you during basketball season, my man.
Anytime, buddy.
That's Kevin Brockway. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to take our first time out of the program, but first, at Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. First time out of the program, we come back when we joined by Coach Brian White, former Gator running back coach, now with the Colorado State Rams. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Hey Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Area Rug Masters, your number one choice in Gainesville for all your area rug cleaning services. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Okido America Martial Arts and After School, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Radware, Style Cuts, Wrap Spot, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Chris Doring Mortgage, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakau Insurance, Pomodoro Cafe, MB Listings, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, Cornerstone Financial Group, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Master, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith, Personal Injury Attorneys, and Gainesville Neon and Signs. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Medici's, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. Our next guest did a lot of celebrating here at the University of Florida. Been a long-time college football coach, Coach Brian White. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great, Shane. How are you?
Can't complain during these crazy times. Before we talk about what you got going on right now, I like to go back to a long time ago, Coach. Talk a little bit about your high school days. We know you went to Harvard to play quarterback. Were you a football-only guy, or did you play multiple sports growing up?
No, I was a three-sport guy. I played basketball, baseball, and football, and just went from one season to the other and loved every second of it.
Yeah, so what made you decide to go to Harvard? I mean, it's hard enough to play college football, but I can't imagine going to class and doing all that at Harvard.
Well, I don't think it's any different than any other school. I'll tell you a funny story later, but I had a sister I have a sister. She was already at Harvard, and I think it made it a lot easier for me to feel like I could handle it, knowing that she was doing very well there. And it was a great opportunity, and really enjoyed going to school there, and met a lot of great friends. And what people don't realize is football is really important at schools like Harvard as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I have a friend who he likes to travel around to different, rivalry games, so to speak. And I want to say it's probably 5 or 6 years ago, he and a big group of guys went to the Harvard-Yale game. And he said it was awesome.
Yeah, it's a great experience, great environment. And that's our one moment in time where Ivy League football players feel like big-time college football. Great environment, great tailgating, and just the pageantry's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. So, Coach, after your playing days, you played quarterback there at Harvard. You got into coaching. You also, you got a degree from Harvard, I believe Fordham, and Notre Dame. So you got to be one of the smarter football coaches with a lot of degrees. What was it like? I mean, what made you want to become a football coach?
Well, my dad was a high school football coach, and he played quarterback at Notre Dame, and I just grew up with football in my blood, and I honestly never thought about doing anything but coaching. And just really feel lucky that I've been able to devote 35 years of my life to coaching young men at a variety of different schools. And the one common denominator is that they're all really special people and have had just tremendous experiences from UNLV to Fordham to Notre Dame as a graduate assistant, Wisconsin, all over the place. Florida, obviously, Boston College most recently, and now at Colorado State. Just been really lucky. Coached a lot of great players, and most importantly, really just wonderful young men that are really self-sufficient and good dads right now.
When you look back, I mean, I'm not going to ask you who you feel like is the best player that you coached, but you did coach a Heisman Trophy winner at Wisconsin, Ron Dane. Talk a little bit about what made him a special player.
Oh, just first of all, he's a very smart guy, understood football very conceptually and intuitively quickly, but just freaky lower body strength and power. And for a guy that came in at 272 pounds, just incredible feet and balance and lower body explosion. That was just rare. I saw him throw the discus 224 feet, which was at the time the longest throw in high school track history. And his shot put explosion, the coordinated explosion that he had in track translated to the football field, and the fact that he was a really intelligent guy really helped a whole bunch too.
Well, let everybody know what brought you to the University of Florida. How'd that all work out? Well,
I knew a variety of coaches on the staff, including Urban and Coach Meyer and I used to recruit the same areas at 25 years old. He was at Colorado State and I was at UNLV, and we used to recruit the same area in Southern California. We developed a friendship and stayed close when his career took off at Notre Dame, and I was at Wisconsin as a coordinator, and we spent time together there. And I knew Chuck Heater on his staff very well, and obviously Coach Adazio and Billy Gonzalez was on the staff. I knew quite a few people. Dan McCarney at that time was on staff, and so there were a lot of connections that certainly helped.
When you look at your time at Florida, obviously, I mean, the run that y'all had with Urban as the head coach, winning 2 national titles there. I guess when you win your first national title in 2006, kind of playing a 2-quarterback system. Tebow was more of some people like to say just as a fullback. Chris Leak was the main quarterback. But what made that team so special? I mean, you had to have some breaks. I want to say in 2006 is when we blocked the field goal attempt by South Carolina that allowed us to continue and have a chance to play for the national title. But what made that team so special?
Well, I wasn't part of that team, but I can tell you from a coaching standpoint. But I know a lot of the guys, and I've heard a lot of the stories. And I just think the work habits that they had, and I mean, Urban's greatest strength is to really get a team focused and to play as hard as they could and play together and play for one another. And that team, as well as the 2008 and the 2009 team that was undefeated until the SEC championship game against Alabama, just great work habits and playing for one another. And Urban had the unique capacity to get a team, a group of young men and coaches focused on one specific goal, and no one did it better.
We got a text here on the Titan MR text line. It comes from Joe. Joe wants to know how many coaches on the Colorado State staff today were members of Urban staff at Florida.
Well, me, Chuck Heater, and Steve. So there's 3. I think that's it.
That's it. Just 3 of y'all. Yeah. Wasn't Chuck at Florida last year as an analyst? Or was that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
great
what I thought.
Football coach, great guy. Really.
Yes.
Special.
So Coach, when you look back, because you coach running backs and tight ends at Florida, but let's talk about the running backs. Was it difficult, or I mean, what was the difference coaching? You had like Demps and Rainey, these scat back type guys, compared to when you had the big bruising type running backs up in Wisconsin.
Oh boy, I had some scat guys at Wisconsin too, but Rainey and Demps were just electric speed guys. Just Jeff was a 10-1 or 10 flat 100-meter guy, and Chris was 10-1 or 10-2 with the most amazing change of direction I've ever been around. Just really the common denominator is that they were all good guys, and whether it be Rainey, Demps, Gillislee, Matt Jones at Florida, Mac Brown, just a wonderful group of guys at Wisconsin. Had some great ones, and Michael Bennett was a first-round draft pick, and he was a speed guy, and Ron Dane obviously won the Heisman Trophy. Brian Calhoun was a second or third round pick with the Lions, and he was an all-purpose guy, the first running back at Wisconsin to have over 50 catches in a season with 1,500 plus yards rushing. So it's, I've just been lucky. I've been lucky to be around a bunch of guys that really loved football and loved being part of a team and loved, working hard and playing with one another and for one another. And it's been really, really unique.
I've always wanted to ask you this, being a former quarterback and playing college quarterback at Harvard, have you ever wanted just to coach quarterbacks? Because it seems like you've always been coaching running backs pretty much everywhere you've been.
Yeah. I coached quarterbacks early in my career at UNLV. And when I was coordinating at Wisconsin, I was very involved with the quarterbacks. So, I've coached it and loved the position and feel like it's, the most important position in all of sport. And I know you'd probably agree with that, being a former quarterback yourself. So it's such a critical position in terms of leadership and being able to pull a team together and the work habits that you need to have to excel at this level, the film study, the extra time that you have to put in to be a championship caliber quarterback. People don't really understand that until you've lived it. I know you've lived that yourself, being the championship quarterback that you were.
Coach, you coach for a bunch of different head coaches. How difficult is it to make an adjustment working for the different coaches when a coaching change is made?
I don't think it's very difficult because most coaches are really good people and got into coaching to develop young men in every area of their lives. And I haven't had any problems with any transitions, and I've been very lucky to be around some of the best coaches that have ever coached, and both as assistant coaches and head coaches.
Coach, I know you coached a couple of years with Aubrey Hill, who's my former teammate at Florida. He was the receiver coach there for a couple of years when you were coaching with him and under Muschamp. There's a saying out there that coaches impact more people in 1 year than the average person does in a lifetime. And that goes to most coaches, but it definitely goes for Aubrey Hill. Just talk a little bit about, your time with Aubrey.
Well, I just an amazing man and person, and just has that warm smile. I'm looking at some of the pictures, and Aubrey was truly a gentle man, and just a wonderful football coach and a team guy. His spirit will live forever in all the players that he coached and all the coaches that he coached with, because there wasn't a mean bone in that man's body. I mean, he was a giver from the word go, and just a remarkable man that I just thoroughly enjoyed working with.
No doubt about it. We got a text here on the Titan MR text line. It comes from Frank. Frank wants to know, Coach White, what is the favorite game that you've coached in your entire career?
Favorite game? Oh, I'd have to say.
That's hard in 35 years, right?
Yeah, there've been some great ones. I mean, the Florida Georgia game when Matt Jones and Kelvin both ran for over 200 yards was a really special one. But
was that the game we completed like 3 passes or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. I was the running back coach, so that was a pretty cool game. But I would have to say that coaching in the Rose Bowl at Wisconsin, back-to-back Rose Bowls in 98 and 99 were really special. I mean, that environment is second to none. The sunset and, the San Gabriel Mountains, the history behind the game, and Keith Jackson, getting to meet Keith Jackson and Dan Fouts in interview was really something special that I'll never forget. And, it was really cool, and we won both of the games. And I'd say those would be the really special ones. But there's been some great games I've been a part of, and overtime games and great wins. And the one thing I can tell you is that what makes football really special to me is the locker room. And people don't really understand how powerful the locker room is, but it's you can't recreate the locker room in business. You can't recreate it in any other, because it's so authentic. And, the celebrations are just unbelievable. But you know what? Handling the tough losses is just as powerful. And people, if you could bottle up what happens in the locker room, we'd solve all the world's problems. I can promise you that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been preaching since we've had all these issues lately that it should be a requirement when you get in middle school and high school that you are on some type of sports, some type of athletic team, or in the band or something, because you deal with all walks of life and you will learn how to deal with issues once you leave and get into the real world. But you're right, Coach. There's nothing like being in a huddle, being in a locker room, and being on a team. Because nobody cares what color you are, where you came from. You all have one goal at hand, and there's nothing like it.
There isn't. I mean, that's why I feel blessed to do what I've been doing for 35 years, because I just, I can't imagine doing something more meaningful, and it's certainly not a job, but to be able to engage with young men and people has just been an incredible journey for me.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Coach, I want to get your thoughts on, obviously y'all aren't playing at Colorado State. Y'all's season is over, but let's talk about the Power 5 conferences. You guys were at Boston College the last 4, 5, 6 years. With the Pac-12 and the Big Ten deciding not to play, let's say your son, which we'll talk about here in a minute, let's say Jackson White was a member of one of the Big Ten football teams. Would Brian White be a part of these parents bitching and complaining that their kids aren't allowed to play college football?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's so complicated. I mean, I wish I've tried to study up as much as I can on the reason why it's so complicated, and I'm stumbling and stuttering around right now, is that people don't have answers.
Right.
And with the myocarditis is being an issue right now, that people are, it's complicated. There's lives involved. There's liability involved. There's all sorts of issues that people really just don't have enough information to make the best decisions. So, I mean, I wish I could answer it better, but I really can't.
Yeah, I know. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. So Coach Adazio gets hired at Colorado State. You were an assistant with him. Now you're the associate head coach out there. Y'all are done playing. Tell us what it's like, or when y'all had to have that team meeting to let the kids know season is not going to happen. And what in the heck are football coaches? Obviously, y'all are still recruiting, but you got to be bored to death, right?
Yeah, well, we're just really focused on our team and their welfare. You know, there's so much uncertainty and anxiety, not just in college football, around the world. So, I mean, I just think, you know, just being empathic and being involved with these players and just guiding them through this time of incredible uncertainty is not easy. And but that's what we're doing. There's nothing else we can do.
Right. You know, I've tried to tell people, you know, because athletes are so structured, their lives are structured, especially when you get in college. You know exactly what time you're eating breakfast, you know what time your tutor session is, you know when you're going to class, you know when meetings are, and then it's all taken away. How difficult has it been for y'all's athletes? And I know y'all probably done a tremendous job trying to keep them on some type of schedule, but from a mental health standpoint, you know, this is what they go to college for. Obviously, they're going for the education. We get all that, but everybody thinks they're going to go play their sport professionally, and only a small percentage get to do that. But it's kind of taken away from them. So from a mental standpoint, have y'all's athletes been doing okay in that area? And I'm not just picking on Colorado State. I'm just saying generally, if your season's canceled, I just don't know how these kids are being able to carry on, because it's so difficult, because this is what they came to college to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been hard. I mean, it's been really hard, and we're continuing to move through it, and we got to move through it together. But this is, you know, with all the uncertainty out there, I think people understand that the decisions aren't easy, and they're very complicated, and who knows what's truly right. I mean, if someone did, then they'd follow that decision-making model. So,
Coach, so since y'all season's canceled, and I probably should know this, but I don't know if the NCAA's come out and said it, does everybody get another year of eligibility?
As far as I understand, yes.
Okay. Now, how's that going to happen? So you have 85 kids on scholarship right now, and you got 25 more coming in for next year's class. I guess they're going to increase the limit of scholarships you can have on a roster.
I don't really know. I'm assuming so, but I mean, those are decisions that haven't been finalized. I mean,
Okay.
There's a lot of layers to this, Shane, as you know. I mean, you're bringing up questions that
they just came to my mind. I just started thinking about it, because you're the first person that I've coached that I've talked to that actually is not having a season. And it's just, it blows my mind. And I mean, you've been doing this for 35 years. And it's going to be the first fall that you're not standing on the sidelines or in the press box.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. Are they playing high school sports in Colorado right now?
No.
Okay. All right, Coach, last couple things for you before we let you go. And we appreciate you. I know it's early out there. I got to coach your son, Jackson, who was a phenomenal high school player, played at Marshall, and now is, I guess, a graduate assistant coach for Will Muschamp. How's he liking that?
He's loving it, and he's coaching in the secondary on the defensive side of the ball, which I think is great, that he'll learn the ins and outs of the game from a different perspective, and I think it'll only help him in his career if he goes back to offense. But he's really enjoying it and learning a lot, and just as I tell him every day, just go in there and grind. Keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, and grind your butt off, and try to find ways to add value. I mean, as a young coach, you're always trying to find ways to add value to help the program in any which way you can.
Well, I think he's going to be a tremendous coach, no doubt about it. And what's your daughter Cassie doing these days?
She's working here at Colorado State, and she's the director of football administration. So she.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she's doing great. Really proud of her, I get to see her every day, which is really cool.
That is cool. And your wife, Sally, who makes the best chocolate chip cookies in the world, what's she up to these days?
She's doing great. She's doing great. And we're really thankful for what you did for Jackson and his experience that he had at Buchholz. And I'm looking at a picture right now of you and Jackson after the Gainesville game.
Okay. Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one. No doubt about it. That was crazy. I'm curious. I want to ask you this because people have always asked me why I didn't get into college coaching, which I always wanted to do. But I tell them I played professionally too long and I was too old to kind of start, because like Jackson's starting right out of college. That's where you want to start, work your way up. But you as a coach, you were on the road recruiting, you were at the hotels on Friday nights with the team. How many times did you actually get to watch him play live?
Well, Will was great and Steve was great. Whenever I got to see every game when I was in Florida. So I got to see his whole sophomore and junior year, and then his senior year, I got to only see 2 games.
Okay.
But Will was unbelievable, and Steve was too. I mean, Steve was, whenever we had an opportunity to go see him, I was on a plane to go see him. But there are sacrifices, and I was lucky to be around guys that understood the importance of being able to see your kids play.
No doubt about it. Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining the show. You can follow Coach White at Coach B White Rams on Twitter. Real quick before we let you go, you're big into grilling out and cooking. Is that just a passion of yours?
Yeah, I you know what? I can't do many things. I can coach football and I can cook. So I'm not very handy around the house. So yeah, cooking's because I gathered that from my dad. My dad's a really good cook, and I just enjoy doing it. It's my relaxation, kind of my way to be creative and create things, and I like to eat. So
yeah,
it's all
I
good.
I hear you. Well, Coach, unfortunately, you guys won't be playing football this year, but be safe out there in Colorado. Hopefully we'll be kicking it off out there with the Rams next year. Make sure you tell your family I said hello, and thanks for joining the program. Sure will. Thanks a bunch, Shane. Always great talking to you, bud. Yep, that's Coach Brian White joining us on the Titan MR hotline from Colorado. We appreciate his time joining the show. This Day in Sports is brought to you by the Best Restoration. Fires, hurricanes, or leaking pipes, whatever causes havoc in your home or business, call the best at the Best Restoration. That's 352-353-0768. This Day in Sports in 2018, Novak Djokovic beats Roger Federer 6-4, 6-4 in the final of the Cincinnati Masters to become the first player to win all 9 Masters tennis tournaments since the series started in 1990. That's This Day in Sports, brought to you by the Best Restoration. Also, don't forget, folks, Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. We want to give a shout out to one of our new sponsors. That's Chick-fil-A on Archer Road. Yes, sir, Chick-fil-A. That makes me hungry. But don't forget, folks, we got the great shows lined up for you the rest of the week. Make sure you tune in. Tell your friends to follow us and like us on Facebook Live, and check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs continue today. Gives you something to watch if you're hanging around the house during the day or at night. That's pretty much going to be it for today's show. Be safe out there, folks. Football is getting closer, hopefully. Today's show is a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Take care, everyone.